Hi everyone, I'm Chris, an architect based in the UK. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to create a construction site management plan using Rayon Design, the collaborative architectural drawing tool built for professionals. Now, we'll begin by importing a DWG floor plan of the site, then layer in essential information like the work zones, crane locations, safety paths, and much more, using colours, symbols, and annotations to clearly communicate site logistics. Whether you're coordinating deliveries, defining safety areas, or planning machinery layouts, Rayon helps you streamline the process and keep all stakeholders aligned on one central platform. You can follow along by signing up for free and downloading the sample drawing linked in the video description. And if you'd like a personalised walkthrough, make sure you book a demo below. Our team will be happy to show you the workflows tailored to your projects. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your questions or impressions in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Now, let's dive in. After creating your free Rayon account, start in your workspace by importing a DWG or PDF of your sitemap. You can also trace over an image file if needed. Let's walk through how to import the DWG file that I've shared in this tutorial. So from our Rayon home screen, you can see my variety of projects that I've been working on. On the right hand side up here is import. So this is where we can import DWGs, PDFs, whatever we have. So I'm just going to jump to my desktop and you can see that DWG there, site plan. So I can open that and it will give me a number of options about importing layers, importing hidden items. I'm just going to stick with these standard items at the moment and go to import. This then opens up a temporary window and I can stay here to check the scale of the drawing that's coming in. So for example, this gives me a dimension that says it's 98 mil, 0.98 meters. So that's correct. So press continue. And then that will come into its own model space. You can see here it's a proposed plan of a building, a house, a very large house with a lovely swimming pool, a variety of trees, and the extent of the site contained within this line. You can also see all these different layers which are part of the CAD information that have come in with the DWG. You can follow the same process for importing other PDFs or JPEGs. And if you've got a drawing that's already been set up, you can import them via the import menu here, and you can select on PDF DWG, and that will bring that into your existing model space rather than creating a new one. Now that the base plan is imported, let's lock it and trace over it using Rayon's wall tool. We'll then add the zones, style them, and automatically calculate their areas. So we can select our layers that exist, and I can right click on those and I can say lock, and that basically locks down the DWG and won't allow me to change it, which is what we want. We want to be able to trace on top of it, and then I can create a new layer and I'll call this walls, for example, and that's where my Rayon based information will live. So what I want to do is trace over the walls that are set up within the DWG so they exist in the Rayon model. And as an example, you can see I've currently got two different wall styles within the DWG, this outer wall and these inner walls. So I can set those up very quickly in Rayon. So let's just check our dimensions. So we've got 0.15 meter. I'm just going to change my units to millimeters because that's the way my architect brain works. So 140, let's call that 150 mil wall. So I'm just going to draw a wall, set that to 150 mil. I'm going to put a lovely bright color on for the second, and I can save that as a style, and we're going to call that external. Exactly the same thing. I'll draw another wall, and I'm going to, let's just measure these ones. So these are 73, let's say they're 75 just for these purposes, and I'm going to change the color, and then again, I will save the style and call it internal. And just for reference, you can look over in your styles tab and you can look down to your walls section, which is here, and you can see those two wall settings there. And that means that whenever you draw anything, you can reference back to those wall styles and it'll automatically update. So say I want to start tracing these walls and I think, oh no, I've drawn it in the wrong wall style. I just use this picker style and that will automatically update those walls, which is really, really handy. So I can just go around, trace these walls, And then I can start with the internal walls. So again, I can select those. Okay, so you can see there that very quickly I've been able to trace over the existing information, and I'll just going to group these CAD layers onto one layer so I can easily turn them off and on. So I can do that by just dragging them into that one, master layer. You can see there I can then turn off and on that information so I can see much more clearly what I've drawn on top. And with the walls drawn, you can then add openings. So you go to the opening tool. I'll just show you as an example. You can select door, start populating that into the drawing. And once you've clicked once, you can then decide what swing of the door you want it to be. You can do the same with windows. So I can click on opening, I can go to libraries. Let's say I wanted to search for windows, for example. Select, and then again I can just start placing them into the model. And then the same thing with zones. So zones are really helpful in terms of either calculating areas, creating spaces. So there's a zone tool down here, so just beneath your wall tool, and you can see there that it looks at where the walls are creating an enclosure. So anywhere where the walls are sort of creating that space, it will highlight, and then if I click, it then creates a zone, and that zone will automatically calculate the area, so the space it's being bounded by, and I can name that zone. So this says bedroom, like that, and that lives inside the model. And I can also change how that appears. So at the moment it's got sort of a half tone on it. I could change the color, I could change it to a gradient, I could change it to a texture or a hatch fill. And that's obviously really useful if you're trying to key code, some of the information which links to the later annotations that we'll be talking about. And it's simple as just going around and clicking on each of these spaces. And as an example, I can even set up styles for the fills. So say, for example, I wanted this to be a blue hatch, which had a level of transparency. I could save that style and say bedrooms, and I could create a new style which was a different color and call that wet rooms, for example. And then if you click on a zone that you've already created, you could then just pick a style and it will revert back to whatever you're picking. Exactly the same with this one. There we go. So if you very quickly want to start color coding some of the spaces that you're creating, the zone tool is the one to use. With the structure in place, let's add blocks and annotations to make the plan much more informative. Rayon's block library includes 10,000 top, side and front view symbols. You can also import DWG blocks, create your own, or curate team libraries for easy access. Okay, so let's start really working with the drawing. So I'm just going to turn the CAD off, and you can see here that I've got the main walls that were drawn earlier. I've just added a few more windows and doors to those. I've just highlighted the swimming pool area, the main sort of circulation path around the house, and then there's a little bit of context. So this is a surrounding property. You've got the main road, which is to the bottom of the image, and then the site extent, which is this zone here. So let's give the road a fill, for example. We'll say that's the external zone. We've got the internal zone. I can send that to the back so we can still see through it. And I basically want to start thinking about how to break up the site, how I would organize it. So for example, having a sort of secure end over here to have all the contractors, bits and pieces, the cabins, all the site equipment over here. So I can trace that with a polyline, and again that becomes a new fill area which I can add a color to. So I'm just going to put these on an area layer. That's very easy. Set that to behind. And we can start thinking about some of the cabins, for example, for the temporary accommodation. So I could very quickly, think of a 8 meter by 2.5 meter cabin, for example. Put a door in it, make it a block, so I can use it again and again. And then start positioning it on the site. So we could have a number of these for storage, for use by contractors or subcontractors, and we can just stack them up to indicate where they're going to be going. And similarly, within that block, I could add a zone for the floor, for example, give that a fill, and then that has its own area as well. Similarly, you could create another different type of cabin, maybe a more office-based one. Again, we can create a zone in there, create a block out of it, and then again start populating. So with those placed, I can now start thinking about the boundaries, for example. So I can create a number of line styles that mean or represent different things. So let's take a line, for example, and I want a red line, dash line for my boundary, make it thicker. And sometimes you'll notice that if you make a line thicker, it won't necessarily show up in your model space. And that's because of the scale that you're viewing the drawing at. So obviously in the model space, we're viewing at 1:1, but we can change that where it says stroke scale. I could set that to 1:100, and now I know how my line's going to appear on a 1:100 drawing, for example. So that's obviously really helpful if you're thinking about these, dashes and things like that. So we can set our boundary line like that, for example. And then we could say, actually, there's another type of line or fence line which defines the compound, so where the sort of safe zone for the contractors is. So again, set the thickness, set the color, and add a different type of dash, for example. So you can see that defines the contractor's compound area. And then we could have a few different other line types. So for example, we might want to indicate where our temporary water is, our temporary electric, and a health and safety line. So one that shows a clear route, a safe route for people to move through. So let's say our safe route is in green. Our water route is in blue, which makes sense. And our electricity line is in, let's say, orange. We can just plot those on the drawing. And then we can pick a style that matches. And exactly the same for the other lines. So let's say we've got temporary water and temporary electricity coming in from the road here, and that obviously feeds the building and feeds the temporary units, and exactly the same for the water. Obviously this is all indicative, and then we can pick a style. So you can see there it very quickly starts to indicate all those key elements that you want to see. And we can also think about waste management and arrivals, for example. So, we could say, for example, actually waste is dealt with in this zone. So that's storage of materials and waste, and that's in a different color. And then maybe this area to the north is about movement of vehicles and parking. You know, we could even add a texture to that, or a hatch. You know, we can change the scale of the hatch, for example. There we go. So say that's for access and car parking. We can add a variety of different blocks, things like cranes, so we could search for that. The search tool is one element of the block library that I use all the time. Really, really helpful. So I can drag and drop in the plan of a crane, and you'll notice that there's a little purple square underneath, and that means that the block has front and side views as well as the plan view. So if you needed it, you have those variety of other views as well. So let's position a crane here so it can use that building, and a crane here so we can access this aspect of the building. Similarly, I could look at things like refuse, so where the bins are located. So again, let's just search for bin. I'm going to scale it up. So, I mean, it's acting as a key reference, you know, as a sort of annotation point. And as example, I could change the color. So if I wanted it to really show up, I could change the color, I could change the line width, and now it's acting as a symbol that can be used on my plan, for example. So that's my refuse point. Similarly, I can add some annotations. So just down here, we have our annotation tool. So we've got standard text. So I could say this is gate 1 and this is gate 2. Obviously, looking at that, I can change the size. So I could say that's actually 2000. I could change the font, and I can create a new style. So I could call that annotation red, for example. And then on any other text element that I've used, I can do pick a style, and that will update that text to match. And all of those text styles, just like your zone styles, your wall styles, they all live in the style library, and they can be saved or exported to become standards within your own library. Similarly, I could call this temporary parking, and I could say, actually, I want that in a different color. So I can detach the style, change the color, and then I can save it as a new style. So annotation black, for example. And if I use that again, I can then call this material storage. And similarly, if I wanted a label for these different areas, so subcontractor, for example, again, I could detach the style, change the size, and then create a new style, say annotation small. And that helps create that consistency. Similarly, we have annotations with leaders. So that's basically where you have an arrow pointing to something. So let's say that there's a signboard that lives outside here. I can change the text, I can change the font, I can change the line thickness if I want, and I can change the end of the line as well. And similarly here, let's say there's a pedestrian entrance. Yeah, all the things that we need to know, and that locates that there as well. I can also add dimensions. So let's, for example, think about how wide this road is. You know, we want to understand logistically what vehicles we can move down it. I can add a dimension here. Again, I can go into the styles. I can say how big the text wants to be, what color it is, what color the line is, how thick that line is, and then again, what the endings of those lines are, for example. And again, if I wanted to, I could save that as a style. So dimension red. And again, that lives in my style library. So there we have a series of dimensions. Now all the drawn information and annotations are complete, we can set up a polished drawing sheet ready for use. Okay, I've just spent a little bit more time refining the drawing, adding more text notes, annotations, a few of these sort of hazard symbols, some tree protection areas around these trees, and I think it's working really well as a polished drawing now. So now we want to get it onto a sheet. So we can go to layers, and you can see here we're currently in the model canvas. So we want to create paper canvas. So I can do to new canvas, paper canvas, we'll call it paper canvas. And then it will say your paper canvas does not contain any pages. So we want to create a page. We create a page. We can decide what size that page wants to be. Let's say it's an A3, for example. And now I can put my view of my model space onto this page. So for that, we go to layers, we go to new, and we go to view, and we go a view from the model space. And this is basically taking a window, looking back at our model space. And here is the drawing we prepared a second ago. So if I command and drag, I can crop my boundary in, just like that. And now I can think about a title sheet. In the block library, we have a whole variety of title sheets. So in library, we can find title blocks and annotations. We can then find a simple title block, drag it in, scale it down so it matches your paper space. Rayon has a whole variety of different title blocks. You can adapt the ones that you're given, so from the block library, or you can even create your own. For the purposes of this drawing, I want to have quite a lot of information in the key, so I'm just going to show you how to adapt the existing title block. So for example, I can double click on this block that I've just dragged in, and then I can basically edit the title block in place. So for me, I'm going to say that actually I want this space to be a lot bigger, so I can fit all my my key information onto it. So I can adjust these, I can stretch the lines back out, place that centrally, and then move these over, and the same thing with these elements above. Move everything over, let's put these up, and I can even add another line in that matches. So that's my title block adjusted, and then I could start adding in the key elements that reference those things on the page. I can add some text, say key, so we could add something like first aid point, or fire extinguisher, and then we could drag those blocks in. To the key. And then obviously, because we're looking at the block library, everything matches what we've been putting in. And similarly, I can use the lines. I could, describe what each of these different colored lines is doing. And I can do that very easily by using the pick a style tool, which will then be referencing the drawing style. And as we said, we could say this is a 2 meter high secure fence, safe route, safe pedestrian route maybe. And then we've got temporary water and temporary electricity. So I've just spent a little bit more time adding to the key. So now we've got all these elements clearly described, what the different containers are doing, what the utilities are doing, what the different cabins are, all those safety elements and all those lines as well. So everything is really, really clear and describes exactly what we want it to be doing. Once your drawing is complete, you can export it for sharing or printing. We've got our drawing set up as an A3 page. And this is at 1:1 scale. We've got our drawing title sheet, and now we can export it. So we go to export, and we can either export as an image or a PDF. So I will select my page. So this is page 1, you can see there on the paper canvas, and it will give you a preview of how that looks. So we want to make sure that all our line styles, everything is coming up exactly how we want it to be. So I can name it, we'll call it construction management plan. Again, I can say whether it's a PDF or a PNG. I can decide on the quality, and we can look at whether the stroke weights are per page or as per the screen. I can do export. We'll put that on the desktop. Okay, and if I just go to my desktop, I can see construction management plan there. I'll open it. And there we go. Perfect. You can also invite teammates into your model to collaborate in real time. This is great for working with consultants, contractors, or other team members. So rather than export it, we can share it. So in the top right hand corner, you can see share. So there's different ways you can share it. So one is to invite other people to access the model. So this is when you would have other team members want to work on the project. I can put in their email address into here, and you can set them as either an editor or an admin or a viewer. So editor, obviously you can edit the drawing. Viewer is just you being able to look at the drawing, but the drawing itself is locked. I can also give a public link, so I can share that and anyone can look at it. And similarly, I can share it as a presentation. So say I wanted to send it to someone, not just send them the PDF, actually send it as a presentation. So if I turn that on, it will give me a link, which I can then copy. So I can get that link, I can paste it into a new window. It will load that presentation, and there I have it. And it looks just like it would as a PDF, but it's on the screen. I'm not having to download the link and send it to anyone. It just needs to go as it is. The really great thing is that I can update it. So say, for example, I was going to go back into my drawing, make an amendment. When I go back to presentation, I can do this little update button and it will update that presentation on that same link. So it's perfect. That's it for this tutorial on creating a construction site management plan with Rayon Design. I hope you found it helpful in understanding how to layer in work zones, crane locations, safety paths, and other site logistics into a clear, professional drawing. If you'd like to explore more, don't forget you can sign up for free and try out Rayon with this sample drawing linked below. And if you're looking for tailored guidance, you can also book a demo with our team, where we'll walk through workflows customized to your project. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and drop your questions or feedback into the comments. We look forward to seeing what you'll create with Rayon.